We thank Mr. Hamra and all the city leaders from that era who saw the value of a public-owned utility here for the city of Nixa. They understood that if we could own and operate our own distribution system, we would save customers money while giving Nixa residents control of the system which serves them. Sam's wife June, his daughter Karen, their granddaughter Cindy are all here, along with Cindy's husband Rob and Sam's great-grandson Caden. And I want to thank all of you for being here as well today. Our other guest speaker today is Ewell Lawson, Vice President of the Missouri Public Utility Alliance. Thank you for being here today. I gotta find my people here when I look up. And thank you for your organization and the support they bring to public utilities across the state. I also want to thank our partners from Grid Alliance who are here today and sponsored this event. And I also want to thank them for the $10 million they gave us for selling our distribution system to them. Transmission system, yes. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. I'd also like to recognize some of our officials and community leaders that are here today. Former Mayor and current State Senator Jay Lawson is here today. State Representative Elijah Har. I think I saw Barbie Barnett Stillings with the county here earlier today. Greene County Presiding Commissioner Bob Certain. Springfield Mayor Ken McClure. Springfield Chamber of Commerce President Matt Morrow. Our Nixa Chamber of Commerce Executive Director Chris Russell. And members of our city council are here today, and along with all the others who've come out to support our community. And thank all of you for being here to celebrate this great day with us. Hope all of you will take some time after the presentation to enjoy some of the activities. We have equipment displays out here, and we have our safety town for the kids provided by Nixa Police. Our MPUA Hazard Hamlet will be out a little bit later to teach kids about kind of how electricity works in the system. And our Parks Department bounce houses out here as well. We also have some great food catered by some fine Nixa businesses. Piccolo's, Buckingham's, and Harder House have provided our food today. And we also have tea dedicated or donated by McAllister's. So I hope you will all enjoy all of those things. So one of the things that sets Nixa apart is the forethought of our community leaders, like Sam Hamra, Jay Lawson, who had the wisdom to invest in our city's water, wastewater, and electric utilities. This year we rebranded our utilities together as Nixa Utilities. And you'll see the flyers and pins and things on your chairs for that. And so why do we do that? And why are those services important? It's a convenience to our residents and our business owners to pay one bill for all those utilities. It also means that we can keep rates low as possible for our residents and businesses. All the money that we pay goes right back into improving our infrastructure as our city grows. Nixa Utilities Director Doug Colvin, Electric Superintendent Brian Denny, and their teams work hard to provide the highest level of customer service. Everything they do is directly to provide to the system that is reliable, safe, and dependable. And it's true that our electric department, as of our water department and sewer systems, as well as our streets and billing departments. They work behind the scenes every day to provide the essential services which many of us take for granted. Please join me in thanking all of our utility workers across all those departments for everything they do for our community. And that's why I wanted Cindy to leave me the roll so my stuff wouldn't blow away. In recent years, Doug and Brian have led the electric department to some major accomplishments. In 2006, Nixa constructed a second transmission line connecting Nixa to Springfield. And that line provides redundancy and increased reliability. For the last several years, the Nixa Electric Utility has been designated as an RP3, or Reliable Public Power Provider. That distinction is bestowed by the American Public Power Association in recognition of the public utilities that provide exceptionally reliable power. Last year, Nixa earned the distinction of a platinum level, and a high honor that is a testament to the exceptional work of our electric department. Last year, Gardner Capital and MC Power Companies flipped the switch on our 8 million megawatt solar farm. The farm is owned by Gardner, operated by MC Power, and the city of Nixa buys 100% of the clean power generated by that facility. This power is actually cheaper than in other places where we currently buy our power. So that means that the farm is going to save us almost $2.5 million over the next 25 years, helping us to keep rates lower for our community. Another huge project completed this year is the sale of our transmission system, which I alluded to earlier to Grid Alliance. Nixa still owns a distribution system that brings power to our homes and our businesses, but by selling the transmission element of our system, we were able to shed something that was going to cost the city more and more money over the years with increasing federal regulations. This sale also means that Nixa has the funds to reduce our debt and strengthen our electric distribution system, while leaving the complex work of complying with all these changing regulations to someone who specializes in that area. Hopefully the next page is the correct one when they blew away. So thank you to, oh, no, they didn't. They didn't blow away in the correct order. That is how those things are gonna go, isn't it? All this work's resulted in Nixa winning the Innovation Award from the Missouri Municipal League this year. This makes the third time in the last 4 years that Nixa has won that coveted award. And earlier this week, Doug Colvin, our utilities director, was honored with the John Tom Tinsley Distinguished Service Award from the Missouri Public Utility Alliance. And that award was presented in Doug's recognition for his dedication to improving our community and his contributions to the MPUA. We're very proud of all these accomplishments, and we think this sets the tone for the next 50 years of the Nixa utilities. So going forward, the Nixa City Council is encouraging the Nixa City utilities to not only continue their efforts towards increased reliability, but to also find ways to improve our customer service. As we look forward, City Council is committed to investing in the future infrastructure improvements that will keep rates competitive and managing the utility budget responsibly. From smart meters to battery storage to being able to monitor your electric usage from your phone, Nixa Utilities is continuing to work to innovate in the ways that we serve you, our customers. And so now I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Ewell Lawson. He's the Vice President of Governmental Affairs, Communications, and Member Relations for the Missouri Public Utility Alliance. The Missouri, that's very hard to say. Quite a tongue twister, Ewell. The Missouri Public Utility Alliance is a non-for-profit service organization representing municipally owned utilities. They partner with locally owned utilities, providing us with a variety of services, including advocacy, training, technical assistance, public power planning and management, lease purchasing, financing, public outreach, and mutual aid. MPUA uses the strength of its collective membership to offer the highest level of service to member utilities such as Nixa Utilities. Please give me a warm Nixa welcome for Ewell Lawson.
Well, the first thing I want to say is, Mr. Mayor, your staff does a wonderful job because they put me following you, and you got to say everything I said I was going to say today. So you stole some of my thunder, and kudos to them for giving you the right placement on that. My name is Ewell Lawson. I'm speaking here today on behalf of the Missouri Public Utility Alliance, and I'm representing and passing on the congratulations and good wishes of more than 120 of Nixa's fellow municipal utilities, most of them in Missouri, but also several in Arkansas and Illinois. 50 years ago, Nixa's leaders made decisions that were for the long-term benefit of the community and all of its citizens by becoming what we call a public power community. Those benefits are easy to tell about in a few words, but their impact is huge. Let me briefly mention three of the biggest benefits. They are local control, affordable costs. You may have heard some of this stuff already. Local control, affordable costs, and reliability. Public power simply means a community owns its electric power. In other words, decisions about how the electric utility is run are made by people who live and work in your community, not by distant corporate boardrooms. When you live in a public power community, you and your neighbors have a say in how your utility is run. Like public schools and libraries, public power utilities are owned by the community and run as a division of local government. Citizens have a direct voice in utility decisions and policy making. Business is conducted in the open. You know where your power comes from and how and why decisions are made that affect your utility bills. Your community electric utility is creating jobs for the community. It makes money that goes back into the community, not into the pockets of corporate executives or shareholders. And since ownership is local, service is local too. Office staff, customer service representatives, and field crews are local residents. And they're able to provide the most reliable, responsive service because they live among you. They care about your community. Along with that local control goes affordable costs. The rates paid by residents, businesses, and the industry are determined by the local utility and local leaders, not a distant boardroom like I mentioned before. The end result of that is that over the long term, on a national average, Public power rates are lower than those of other utility companies. Locally owned utilities achieve affordability by setting rates using citizen-controlled boards that hold public meetings. Their financing improvements are with municipal revenue bonds that are exempt from federal income tax. And local not-for-profit utilities, the business model is not-for-profit, have the power to put their neighbors first. Keeping energy costs affordable serves every community's long-term needs, and that's what public power is all about. Finally, a little on public power's reliability. Putting it simply, customers of public power utilities lose power less often. Provided there are no major adverse events, customers of a public power utility are likely to be without power or lose power. If they do lose power, they're only out of that power on average of 59 minutes a year, compared to customers of private utilities that may lose power for 133 minutes a year. And even among public power communities, Nixa is included in that special group of cities nationally recognized as reliable public power providers. We call that RP3 here in Missouri, but what that means is it's one of the nation. While today is about taking a moment to remember the past, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Nixa is fortunate to have someone looking to the future for you. He's a true leader. My praise here wouldn't be complete without recognizing the contributions to the wider community of public power utilities made by Nixa's Director of Utility Public Works, Doug Colvin. Doug? The success of any municipal utility depends on having both a supportive community and solid leadership. Doug's leadership at Nixa has been a force behind its progress and achievement since he began serving here in 2004. Doug has led the Nixa electric utility in improving its reliability and through development of a number of transmission and distribution projects. As was mentioned earlier by the mayor, and I mentioned, his guidance has helped bring about Nixa's national recognition as a reliable public power provider by the American Public Power Association. Nixa is among only 118 utilities. Now, that sounds like a lot until you realize that there are 2,000 public power communities nationwide. So there are 118 out of the 2,000 nationwide that have earned the RP3 designation, recognizing its reliability, safety, workforce development, and system improvement. That's something to be proud of here in Nixa. Doug has strengthened the city's financial standing through the successful sale of Nixa's electric transmission system and enabling the utility to cut debt and work on a cash basis. Doug has also advanced Nixa's commitment to renewable energy by steering the partnership with Gardner Capital and MC Power to open the Nixa Solar Farm, which was the largest utility solar farm in the state of Missouri at its launch last year. The solar farm will save Nixa's electric utility an estimated $2.5 million over the course of a 25-year contract. That earned the city of Nixa its second consecutive innovation award from the Missouri Municipal League. For all that and more, Doug was recognized just a few days ago at our annual conference at the Lake of the Ozarks by the Missouri Public Utility Alliance with its highest honor, the John Tom Tinsley Distinguished Service Award. So, Doug, congratulations. To Doug, Mr. Mayor, and the city of Nixa today, I'm glad to be here to share in your anniversary and recognize your special achievements. Nixa's utilities are truly leading the way as an example to other cities and utilities on how to do it right. You have a lot to be proud of here in Nixa, and your hometown utility is one of them. So thank you very much for having me here today, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Mr. Hamra and the history. But remember, Nixa is still looking forward into the future. Thank you.
Next time we'll work on coordinating our speeches a little bit. Thank you, and we thank you for what your organization gives to our community. and we're glad you were able to be here today to speak. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Sam Hamra. I met Sam a couple years ago, and we had a conversation about the history of Nixa Utilities. When the city began discussing the preparations for this 50th anniversary celebration, I immediately thought of Sam, and he'd be the perfect person to share that fascinating history with us all. Sam Hamra has been practicing law since 1959 and continues that practice today. He served as Nixa's city attorney from 1965 through 1970, playing a key role in the establishment of the Nixa Public Electric Utility. As a government relations attorney, he also served Branson and the city of St. Roberts, and he was instrumental in securing funding from MoDOT and the federal government for the widening of US 65 to Branson and the building of the James River Freeway. He's also the founder and chairman of Hamra Enterprises, which comprises 162 restaurants and 1 hotel, along with being a principal organizer of Oak Star Bank. Sam is the winner of numerous prestigious awards and recognitions, including the Lifetime Achievement in Business Award from the Springfield Business Journal, the Distinguished Service Award from the University of Missouri, and the Dave Thomas Founders Award from Wendy's International. He served on the board of just about everything, including the Springfield Area Chamber of Commerce, the Greene County Bar Association, Cox Health Systems, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, the Ozarks Technical Community College Foundation, the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame, the Harry S. Truman Library Institute, Rotary Club of Springfield, and on and on and on. At this point, Mr. Hamra has and continues to contribute greatly to Nixa, the Ozarks, our state, and our nation. And we are so glad to have him here with us today. So please give a warm welcome to Mr. Sam Hamra.
We're like a quarterback and a tight end. We're getting some information from the tight end on what to do here now. I'm going to set these aside. And first, I'm going to tell you what a pleasure it is for me to be here today. I am honored, thrilled, and words cannot express my feeling, and I want you to know that. The mayor was good enough to invite some of our special guests, but I would like to recognize others. And please hold your applause. So I just recognize these people who are here today as friends of mine from Springfield and the state of Missouri. Sharon Alexander, Director of Development Legal Services. Gerald Andrews, President of Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. John Black, former Springfield City Utilities Attorney. Bob Cumley, former Springfield Manager in Springfield. Greg DeLong, OTC Board Member. And Debbie and Alex. Craig Fisher, former Springfield City Councilman, Pete Miller, Director of the Mizzou Botanical Gardens, and Pam Miller and Billy Rand, Steve Oslika, Executive Director of Hawthorne Foundation, Bill Ricketts, Board of Trustees, Drury University, and Camille, Father Joe Tarkin, Priest, St. James Episcopal Church, Walt and Becky Cameron, Rick Gilmore, Dr. Abe Abdullah, Dwayne Holden, President of Custom Metalcraft, Beth Yarbrough, Greg and Judy McManus, Mary Lou Martin, Jennifer Simpson, Ron Stith, and I thought I saw Kyle Keltner's son, Ken, but he's always late at everything, so he may not be here yet. Is Ken, are you here somewhere? Stand up so I can recognize you. You're easy to be recognized. Then from the Hamra Enterprise staff, Simeon Shelton, our CFO, and his wife Bobby and daughters, Olivia and Sarah. Chuck Okarus, President of Wendy's, Missouri. Sonia Brewer, Director of Human Resources from Hamra Enterprises. And Mike Brewer. Rebecca Johnson, Administrative Assistant. Cheryl Jones and Kara Taylor. You've seen them running around here today, and I can tell you, they worked hard, and I can't thank Rebecca enough for all the hard work she's done these past few months. We've gone through our warehouse to find files dating back to 65 and 70 from the city of Nixa, from the Progressive Industries. So a lot of the things I'm going to say to you today, we were able to pick up in those files, and I thank Rebecca and Karen and Cheryl for all the help they gave. Let's give them a big hand, because they have really done So let me start. I told everyone that has asked me, I said, well, the speech today is going to be interesting, educational, and it's going to be entertaining. So I hope you find that I described at the end of the speech that these are the exact words that describe my talk. If you can't hear me in the back row, now raise your hand because I want everybody to hear what I have to say. This is important for the history of the city of Nixa. The building of the Nixa electrical distribution system began after I graduated from the University of Missouri Law School in 1959 and started practicing law with the Springfield law firm of Miller, Fairman, and Sanford. Soon after my arrival, a senior partner handed me a letter from 2 retail seed dealers in Kentucky who said they had a claim against Nixa Hardware Company, which was owned by Kirk Hawkins and L.D. Mack McCroskey. They felt Nixa Hardware Company had not delivered the seed they ordered because the price had risen from the time of their telephone call to the time that the seed was supposed to be shipped. The Kentucky retailers had to go out and on the open market and buy seed at a higher price. They were making a claim for about $1,800. That was back, remember, this is back in 1960. I don't know what it'd be worth today. After receiving no response to my demand letter, I proceeded to file my lawsuit against Nixa Hardware Company for the $1,800 plus interest, attorney fees, and court costs. After several months of exchanging pleadings, the case was tried on a change of venue by a jury trial in Galena, Stone County, Missouri in May of 1960. Now, if any of you think I didn't have more sense than to have that case tried in Christian County where Kirk Hawkins and L.D. McCroskey lived, you misjudged me. The quicker I got that out of this county, the better off I thought I had a chance. So no one was more surprised than I was when the jury awarded the judgment to my clients, which by then the judgment with interest, attorney fees, and court costs was around $2,300. My clients were happy and I was overjoyed. My first jury trial, and let me tell you this, make no bones about it, I'm sure that jury felt sorry for me, and that's the only reason that I got that judgment, because I didn't deserve to win. I really didn't, because I stumbled and fumbled. I mean, I'm glad that Rick, you didn't make a video of my performance then, because it was gone down in history as the worst ever. After opening my own law office on Plaza South in Springfield in 1965, excuse me, I received a call one day from Kirk Hawkins, who wanted to come see me. During his visit with me, he stated that I had won the Nixa Hardware case when I should not have won it. And I told him I agreed with him. He said he wanted to give me a new challenge. He went on to explain that Empire District Electric Company had been serving the city of Nixa with electric power and that their franchise had expired. The city did not want to renew the franchise with Empire District Electric Company. Instead, the city wanted to build their own electrical distribution system. He said that the city of Nixa was looking for a city attorney to represent them on a part-time basis. He wanted to know if I would serve as Nixa city attorney. Now here I'm a hungry lawyer on my own. You know what my answer is going to be. I told him I'd be delighted to be Nixa city attorney, and I was. How little did I know when I took that case what a challenge this was going to be. After much litigation and hard feelings expressed in many ways by both sides, the courts ruled in our favor and allowed the city of Nixa the right not to renew the franchise agreement so that Nixa could build their own electrical distribution system. Along with Mayor Kirk Hawkins during those 4 years, the city council consisted of Finest Gold, Paul Moore, Melvin Martin, L.I. White, Frank White, Roy Middleton, Clarence Middleton, Bill Gardner, Leonard Martin. And Juanita Jernigan was city clerk. Cliff Schaefer, now remember this, Cliff Schaefer was deputy city clerk. After going to the voters twice, the city received strong public support for approval of issuing bonds in the amount of $265,000 and began building the Nixa electrical distribution system with land builders of Wichita, Kansas, our contractor. The first time it went to the voters, it didn't pass. But the city got busy and they did a lot of campaigning and it was overwhelmingly passed the second time around. That is why at that time people began seeing two sets of poles throughout the city of Nixa. One set being owned by Empire District Electric, and one set next to the Empire District Electric poles installed by the city of Nixa. We had a verbal assurance from Empire District Electric that until this system was built, they would go ahead and supply electrical power for the city of Nixa. After the electrical distribution system would be built, they said they would continue supplying Nixa wholesale electrical power. This way we could operate our city-owned electrical distribution system. Unfortunately, while the system was being built, Empire told the city that they would not supply wholesale power to Nixa after the electrical distribution system was built. That meant that we had to go find a wholesale supplier. Southwest Power Administration, SPA, agreed to supply us the wholesale power, but we had to build our own transmission power line from the SPA line in Springfield to the electrical distribution system in Nixa. That caused us to have to form our own separate entity, and we formed Progressive Industries Company, which was made up of investors and stockholders from people in Nixa, including Cliff Schaefer, who became our company president and general manager, along with the other investors, stockholders, W.A. Barney Wisner, Austin Dunham, Leonard Jones, J.S.A. Jake Flood, L.D. Mac McCroskey, Ward Riney, and Gordon Dunham, and several others that helped included Dr. Rufus Wilson and Kyle Keltner. We found a contractor who was willing to build a transmission power line, but it was going to take a lot more money than the $40,000 investors were going to invest. We then went to Archie Yates, who was president of the Nixa Bank, to work out a loan through SBA. We all flew to Kansas City on Ozark Airlines to get approval for a $135,000 SBA loan. Now, you youngsters wouldn't remember Ozark Airlines, but it's now American Airlines, but it was originally Ozark Airlines. Archie Yates, age 63 at the time, told us that was the first airplane flight he had ever taken. He was literally scared to death the entire trip going and returning. I'll never forget that. I think Cliff Schaefer had to hold him down in his seat before he started running out. We had to have our banker go with us. We'd never gotten the SBA loan. Now we had the financing in hand, the business corporation established, and a signed agreement with the contractor, S&S Line Construction Company of Kansas City, for $132,000 to build a transmission line from Springfield to Nixa. We were now ready to go to work, but only after we obtained easements from the Christian County Commissioners. The county granted to the city of Nixa and Progressive Industries a blanket easement. Now listen to this. A blanket easement throughout Christian County for the transmission line to be built from SBA line in Springfield to the Nixa electrical distribution system. I've had lawyers tell me how they had to go back and file affidavits to clean that lien off the property, or otherwise they could never have sold it that they were trying to sell. Oh, I wasn't too popular with some of our Greene County and Christian County lawyers back then when that happened. Once construction began on the transmission system, Empire District Electric obtained support of the other utility companies in Missouri, including Union Electric Company in St. Louis, Kansas City Power and Electric in Kansas, Kansas Power and Light and Electric, and others to join them in going to the Public Service Commission to get the PSC to join us in building this transmission power line. After the Public Service Commission issued a temporary restraining order against Progressive Industries, we had a big hearing in Jeff City. Now, you would have loved this. All these utility companies and their attorneys appeared in gray flannel suits and ties, and my buddies from Nixa came up there in overalls and work clothes and whatnot. And I tried to say something, but it wasn't worth saying anything. It was just, we just went up and I said we did our best. The Public Service Commission then ruled permanently that Progressive Industries did not have the authority to build a transmission power line, and they issued a permanent restraining order against us. Now we were in a jam. We did not have the electrical distribution system built, and we'd have no revenue to pay the bonds. We had a contractor who had built part of the transmission power line, but who could not get paid because we could not use SBA funds to pay him. Here I was trying to figure out a way out of this dilemma, and you can imagine I was sweating bullets, if you want to say it. And one day I received a call from an attorney in Thayer, Missouri, who identified himself as Hubert Davidson. God bless his soul. He told me he knew we were in trouble, and we were. And if I wanted him to, he would come to Springfield to meet with me. I welcomed him with open arms. He said he knew Doug Wright, who was the director of Southwest Power Association, SBA in Tulsa, and his staff. He said they came to his farm in Thayer to hunt quail each year. He said he felt he could get an appointment for us to go to Tulsa to meet with Doug Wright. Well, you know what I said, how soon can we go? Hubert Davidson and I drove to Tulsa to meet with Doug Wright and his staff. I will never forget walking into Doug Wright's office. Here was this distinguished gray-haired man with a handlebar mustache. He looked like General Bull Moose and Little Abner. So help me. There was a long T-shaped table in which 4 men were on each side, totaling 8, and Doug Wright was sitting at the head table. In the corner was his secretary sitting at a desk and apparently recording our meeting. Doug Wright started out by asking Hubert how the quail hunting was going to be this fall. He said he was planning on going down there with his boys and from the SBA. Hubert told him the quail hunting was going to be great. At that moment, I knew that we were in friendly territory. Doug Wright said he didn't like it that the little guy was being picked on by these big guys. And he was aware that Kirk Hawkins had had a heart attack during one of our trials, and he was going to try to help us out. He went around the room and asked each man where they had different components for an electrical distribution system that were located in different areas from Alaska down to Florida. That's what his territory was. He would say such things as, Harry, you have a transformer on that Seattle job that you're not using. How long would it take to get to Nixa? Shorty, do you have some cable in Alaska you're not using that you can get to Nixa on a certain date? He went around the room and asked each man about all the different components needed for an electrical distribution system, such as a transformer, switchgear, power bus, switches, cables, chain link fence, and several others, until he had a commitment from each of them to deliver all the needed components to be delivered to Nixa by a certain date. He then said he was going to set this up under a code name of Ham Hube, after Sam Hamra and Hubert Davidson. And he would set a date when all these parts would deliver to the site, so that SBA could start construction of the Nixa electrical distribution system. We would keep it secret as to what our mission was, and that SBA would then supply the wholesale power to our electrical distribution system. He then closed the meeting by telling Hubert that he looked forward to hunting quail with him this fall, and to make sure he kept the hunting dogs well fed. I could have gone over and hugged his neck after that, but I felt it was improper under the circumstances. Sure enough, on the next day, I got a call from Finest Gold, the town barber, and he was really my informer of my deep throat. Those of you, I'm sure your parents have talked to you about Finest and probably said the same thing. He kept me informed on what was going on in Nixa. He told me I needed to come down to see what was happening. I never saw anything like it. There were several SBA trucks out there on Highway 14 west of Highway 160. SBA men were working. Photographers were there taking pictures, and the media was there. These SBA people were building the Nixa electrical distribution system. They were installing the transformer, switch gears, cable, and all the parts to the system. While the Empire District people were watching this being done, I got several hard looks from some of their people. I was grinning like a possum. Later, I received word from Finest Gold that Empire District Electric and the other Missouri utility companies were all going with their lawyers to Washington, D.C. to meet with the president to try to get him to order the U.S. Attorney General to stop the construction of Nixa electrical distribution system. Prior to this, I had become good friends with U.S. Senator Stuart Simonton. He had been appointed by President Roosevelt as the first Secretary of the Air Force. I began helping him when he was elected to the U.S. Senate in 1952 and then re-elected in 1958 and 1964. I served as his finance chairman and campaign chairman in Southwest Missouri in 1970. Senator Simon was the godfather of my younger daughter, Jackie. I called Senator Simon in Washington and told him what was taking place. I said, Senator, I'm not asking you to take my side on this. All I'm asking you to do is to stay neutral. He promised me that he would. Now, in those days, you could call a U.S. Senator and talk to him directly. You can't do that today. That was a key turning point. Senator Simon honored his word. Several months later, I was told by Bob Hawkins that all the attorneys and CEOs for the Missouri utility companies met with the Secretary of the Interior and with Missouri U.S. Senator Ed Long and U.S. Senator Stuart Simonton. They then met with President Lyndon Johnson in the White House at a prearranged time. When President Johnson asked if they had the support of both U.S. senators, they said they had Senator Long's support, but Senator Stuart Simonton was remaining neutral. The president then told them that unless they had the support of both U.S. senators from Missouri, he would not order the U.S. Attorney General to stop the construction of the Nixa electrical distribution system. Again, I say Senator Stuart Simonton honored his word. If we could sometime put up a plaque, and that's the gentleman we ought to be honoring, because he made it happen. The Nixa electrical distribution system was built and became operational on or about December 1, 1968. As of July 31, 1969, it was supplying electrical power to 345 Nixa households. It was not necessary to complete the building of the power transmission line, since SBA had their own power line to deliver wholesale power to the Nixa electrical distribution system, which they did. We were now in business. We set up a board of public works when we patterned after the Springfield City Utilities Board, with several board members appointed by Mayor Kirk Hawkins. They included Keith Young, Ralph Seiler, Kyle Keltner, and Dr. F. Wilson. They did a good job as board members for the utility company for several years. Then the city took over the direct operation of the Nixa electrical distribution system. The money the city made from the electrical distribution system, instead of Empire District Electric supplying electrical power, helped the Nixa community grow dramatically. This is what the mayor alluded to. The city of Nixa, now listen to this, the city of Nixa grew from about 900 when I first became city attorney in 1965 to over 20,000 today. If you ask anyone in Nixa who knows about the Nixa economic growth, they will tell you that one of the main reasons for the growth of Nixa was their owning their own electrical distribution system. I was proud to have played a role in it. When Richard Nixon was elected president in 1972, one of the first acts he did after being inaugurated was to replace Doug Wright because of the support the president received from the utility companies in Missouri. I later found this out for true. I felt badly about this because Doug Wright had been appointed as the first director of SBA by Franklin D. Roosevelt and reappointed by Presidents Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, and Lyndon Johnson until being terminated by President Nixon. The people who deserve much credit for what the electrical distribution system is today are Mayor Kirk Hawkins, City Councilman Finest Gold, Paul Moore, Melvin Martin, L.I. White, Frank White, Roy Milton, Clarence Milton, Bill Gardner, Leonard Martin, City Clerk Wanda Jernigan, Assistant City Clerk Cliff Schaefer, Progressive Industries investor shareholders Cliff Schaefer, L.D. McCroskey, Barney Wisner, Austin Dunham, Gordon Dunham, Warren Rayner, Leonard Johnson, J.S. Jake Flood, Dr. Rufus Wilson, Kyle Keltner, Board of Public Works Keith Young, Ralph Seiler, Kyle Keltner, Dr. Rufus Wilson, and many others who've helped along the way, including Archie Yates, Rex Devendorfer, Keith Keltner, Larry Hedgepath, State Senator and former Nixa Mayor Jay Lawson. They all helped us with the electrical distribution system for the city of Nixa being built. This would not have been accomplished with all of them participating. They were truly the heroes of Nixa. After the system was up and running, I felt we should celebrate. So I invited all the city councilmen, the Progressive Industries investors, and the Board of Public Works members down to my cabin on Table Rock Lake, across from Cape Fair Boat Dock, for an afternoon of socializing and a cookout prepared by my Springfield housekeeper, who had a place next to ours on the lake. That was in March of 1969. I decided that since it was a sunny March day, I would take everyone for a ride in our 18-foot Mark Twain boat. So they all piled in the back of my boat I was driving. We were drinking, laughing, and having a good time. There was nobody on the lake because it was cool. This was before Johnny Morris had started selling fishing tackle in his dad's brown liquor store on South Campbell in 1972. So we had the lake to ourselves. We all had jackets on, and I was going full speed. The sun was in my eyes. I was turning around talking to everybody when suddenly I looked up and saw this aluminum, flat-bottom fishing boat directly in front of me, and it was perpendicular to my boat. I do not know how I did not see it, and I was headed right for it. There was a tall farmer in overalls and a hat standing in the center of the boat, fishing and facing me. On his right was a very heavy-set farmer in overalls, also fishing. I pulled the throttle back, but not in time, and I plowed right into the center of that boat. So help me God. The big guy jumped out of the boat into the water right before we collided. I immediately put the throttle in reverse, backed the boat up, turned the key off, took my shoes and pants, and jumped off and jumped in to try to save him. He saw me coming and yelled at me, "Get away from me, you crazy guy," although in more vulgar terms that I will not put in my speech today, as he was trying to swim back to the boat. After that, I swam back to my boat and told the Nixa guys, who were in shock and had spilt their drink, several had fallen down when the boats collided, to get my attorney card out of my billfold, which they did. Now, I want you to know, there's one gentleman here who was in that boat, and he's here today, and he and his wife, and I wrote it down somewhere, I'll find it, Brian Norman, and his wife and son. Would you stand, please? I want people to know you're still living. But these guys, they spilt their drinks, and they had fallen down, and I mean, it was something to see. So I swam over, and the boys, I asked the boys in there, they were in shock. I mean, literally in shock. And I asked them to get my attorney card out of my billfold, which they did, and I swam over and gave it to the tall fisherman and apologized to him. Even though I damaged his boat considerably, it did not sink. I said, "Look, here's my name and phone number. I apologize that this happened. Get your boat fixed or whatever needs to be done or replaced, and just come to my office and I will give you a check." He just mumbled, but now I say what I'm sure he felt. I started swimming back to my boat, and the mix of men started pulling me in. While I was still in the water, the tall guy that was fishing was still holding his fishing rod. He turned around to his friend who was still struggling in the water and said, "Claude, this just ain't been our day." Now you can imagine they'd been fishing all day and probably hadn't caught any fish, and here this crazy guy, no other boat on the lake, crashes into his boat. Oh boy. Brian, I'm glad that Gloria and your son JP are here could testify that you were in that boat that day and that you're still living. I appreciate that. As we were driving back to my place, the people from Nixa were still in shock for what had happened. No question about it. They weren't even talking. We returned to my place so I could put on dry clothes, and we started having a few drinks to settle down. The more we talked about it, the more humorous the story became. So it became the standard joke in Nixa for several weeks. Someone who was on the street in Nixa would see another buddy across the street and say, "Claude, this just ain't been our day." And both of them would start laughing. A few weeks later, this tall fisherman came to my office with a bill for repairs to his boat, and I gave him a check. I asked him how Claude was doing, and he said, "You know, I don't know. Claude ain't been fishing since you rented into my boat." Oh, me. Pleasant memory. A few months later, Bob Hawkins came to see me. He would later become the president of the Missouri Bar Association. And he was an excellent lawyer for Empire District Electric. He did him a heck of a job. He told me all that had happened in Washington, D.C., and he said, Sam, I'm going to give you some advice. You got by with this one. Don't you ever try to do another one like this. I said, Bob, there's not enough money in the world for me to ever try to do one of these again. I appreciate all of you being here today to hear this history of building the Nixa electrical distribution system. It's a great way to celebrate these 50 years. I've always been indebted to Kirk Hawkins, the City Council for hiring me, the investors in progressive industry, members of the Board of Public Works, Hubert Davidson, Doug Wright, and others who helped me. It was a great experience. I do want to say, I see Dan Walsworth was just here. If I overlooked introducing anybody, hey, I see my doctor back there, Keith LaFerrier. Keith, you see you there. Did I forget to introduce anybody from Springfield, or my friends from Missouri over here, anybody else? I didn't want to overlook anybody. Did I, Chuck, anybody? Okay. I just want to close by saying I was honored to be the Nixa City Attorney from 1965 to 70, and I'm pleased that Mayor Brian Steele asked me to be the speaker today. I appreciate all of his help and the help of Drew Douglas, Nixa's Public Information Officer, and all the staff of the Nixa, City of Nixa who have worked on this and have helped me. I thank each of you, your fathers and grandfathers, the people of Nixa, and others who stood by me. I will always have fond memories of each of you, each of them, and each of you, and the people of the City of Nixa. Thank you, and God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
Well, while I have Sam up here, I got one more little thing for you before you step down, Sam. On behalf of the City of Nixa and the Nixa City Council, I want to present you with this key to the city for your dedication and service to the City of Nixa all those years ago.